Welcome to the After School Project. This is an initiative to uplift voices of color. Before we begin, we must acknowledge the land that we are on. On behalf of North Seattle College, we acknowledge that we occupy the traditional ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Duwamish tribe, a people that are still here, continuing to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. Without them, we would not have access to this gathering, dialogue, and learning space. We ask that we take this opportunity to thank the original caretakers of this land who are still here. This episode is brought to you by North Seattle College. My name is Natasha Guerrero, and I'm part of North Seattle College. I'm an early childhood educator in Seattle, Washington, and I'm going to pass it over to my co-host, Marah.
Hey guys, my name is Marah. I'm also part of the North Seattle College. I'm right now working with the alumni project, and I'm excited to be here. I'm also a family educator in Seattle Public School. I work with Tony, so I'm excited for this.
Hi, I'm Tony Washington, and I am a preschool educator here in Seattle, Washington for Seattle Public Schools Head Start program.
Hi, my name is Esther Grant Walker, and currently I am the community coordinator for Talent Unlimited High School, which is a performing arts school in the New York City Department of Education. I do a lot of things. I love doing community things. I also teach West African dance for the past 35 years. And I am a consultant with an organization called Dignity of Children, where I am an advisee coach to professionals trying to earn their credential to be directors at after-school programs.
Well, thank you, Esther and Tony, for both being here with us. We're really honored to have you here on this floor to share this space and to learn more from you. Maraf and I have some questions that we want to ask you, pick your brain about, and just learn about your experiences. So, Maraf, do you want to take it?
Sure. The first question is, what has your experience been being a Black female in this field? You guys can start anytime, whenever you can go.
So I guess I'll start. I've worked in every level of position in school-age childcare. I'll stick to after school. As an artist in residence, as a group leader, as a specialist, as an assistant director, as a director, and then in middle management, overseeing programs. New York is tricky. It depends on where you are, what part of the city you are, and who your clients are in terms of what your experience is. I was fortunate to work in not-for-profit organizations that were very focused on employee development and growing employees that showed talent. So in that case, I had a very positive experience. As you try to move upward, though, to executive management, there are definitely barriers. There's definitely obstacles that get in your way, just in terms of education. If you can afford the education to move up to executive management, also executive directors, and the not-for-profit world is very small. And so there tends to sometimes be cronyism, if I could use that term. And so, people know each other, and who do you know? And, you have to really fight, or you have to be exceptional. You have to do a lot more than someone that is just coming out of school that knows somebody that knows somebody.
All right. So for me, being Black in my profession, oftentimes I feel undervalued, underpaid for sure. Oftentimes I'm not seen as that go-to person. For example, if my white ally, a teacher, is standing beside me, even my own people will go to that person thinking that they're the one in charge, that even that they're the boss of me. So those are, some of the challenges that I face in my field being an African American woman. My skills, my expertise of 43 years are still questioned. So I'm not that go-to person. Someone of a different color, not like mine, is the go-to person. And what they say is pretty much in stone, oftentimes. So that's pretty much how I feel, like almost invisible in the workplace.
You both mentioned barriers, challenges, and obstacles. Have you faced any barriers that made you want to leave the field that you're in?
Yeah, my barriers, again, just feeling this isolation in this field as a Black woman, and the lack of opportunities to move up in the field. It takes years to move up because it takes years for someone to leave in the field or to retire in the field. So there's just not a lot of opportunities to move up in the field, even after they pay you to get the degree. And of course, we're not paid any more money. And in the school district that I work for, we're not paid any more money for getting the degree that they paid for, and they make us work 3 years to pay it back, which is, that's okay, whatever. But still, there's just no opportunity for growth, and it just, the time span is just, it's too long.
Myself. So I would agree with Tony, what Tony is saying in terms of um, pay scale. That's definitely a barrier. To share some personal things, because I like to be an open book, because I want women of color, people of color, to know exactly my story and what I did, and to understand that, there's going to be barriers, but there's a certain amount of self-determination that you need um, in order to rule your world. So my after school programs were always my world. I designed them the way I wanted to, etc. Um, I would I would agree that money was an issue when I first came into the field in terms of running after school programs, because um, I went to high school, I started college, then I started having children. So I started having children when I was very young,
Mhm.
you know, but I had a very solid education. And I grew up in an environment where community programming was important. So when I went into a management position, I was paid $5,000 a year less because I didn't have a piece of paper. I had the experience, I knew how to design, I knew how to create budgets, I knew how to supervise and train staff, but I didn't have the piece of paper. I didn't have the piece of paper because I had children when I was younger and I needed to work. And so I didn't have time to go to school, right? And I often found myself advising people that had up to a master's degree. And I was always asked, where did I get my graduate degree from? And I would tell people, I was very honest, I don't have a college degree. I have a high school degree and I have 2 years of college. I eventually got my bachelor's and my MBA. However, you see my cat rolling by. However, initially that was what the deal was. It's like, you're not making money like that. The second thing, in the not-for-profit world, your financial stability long term, there's no pension. You save in your 401k, but and that is what that was the hardest thing, like, because there's no such thing as a 35 or 40-hour work week when you're working with children, when you're working in an after school setting, when parents are late, when you have evening events, when you have all these showcases. That doesn't exist. So, that presents obstacles, especially if you are a parent yourself, if you are looking to be innovative and be a trendsetter. And if you truly are in tune with what your community needs, it takes a lot of time. And I concur with Tony that, you know, someone white will work 10 to 6 and leave. But as a person of color, you're expected to be salaried and put overtime in. And so those are some of the things that happen. And it's a shame. It's a shame because I think if you're there to serve the community, then you serve the community. And if it means that you have to spend 15 minutes after a certain amount of time, if you're true to the mission, then that's what you do. And that's the expectation of people of color. That's the expectation, that we put in whatever time it takes.
I remember those nights when you stayed on, when you were there till 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock p.m. So yeah, I remember those nights back in Isaacs. So what obstacles have you observed for families, all children of color, and throughout work on in this field?
So the obstacles I have observed are the long-term stress of racism on Black children. Black children are exposed to frightening and threatening experiences more than their white allies. They just like, for example, the current events that are happening now, where our race is being attacked. The current event with George Floyd right now, right? Our children are listening. Our children are watching and seeing what's happening in the world around them. So, of course, this impacts the African American families. It just brings more stress into the homes of African American families. How can they be so successful with all this stress around them, right? How can a mother tell their child, yeah, you can go to the store by yourself? No, she can't do that no more. Yeah, she can, you can play outside in the yard. No, she can't do that no more. She don't know if there's going to be a drive-by shooting in her area or not her area, because it's happening all around us. No, her child can't go into the store on his own and buy some bubble gum and learn the math experience and gain those community relationships within their community. These are some of the obstacles that I see that our African American families are encountering today, this moment, as we're speaking.
Yeah, I would agree. I would want to also bring up disparity. You know, the communities that I work in, it's like a tale of two cities. You've got people that are in abject poverty, living in conditions where maybe you have hot water and maybe you don't. The schools, the equipment is substandard. So they're equal, but they're not equitable, right? So the quality of teachers, the qualifications of teachers are different. The textbooks are different and older. The curriculum is different. The quality of the food is different. And then you may have generations of families that have gone to substandard schools and the curriculum keeps changing. Oh, we're going to do this type of math for 3 years, then we're going to switch and do another type of math. And so all of these things weigh in. Having fresh fruits and vegetables available that are affordable for people that live in the community. You know, nutrition, all of those things. Children have to be able to get a good night's sleep. They need to be able to eat healthy food. They need to be able to understand their teachers. You know, you have teachers that can't pass the exams that the children have to take. Why are they teaching? You know, so all of these things, all of these are major obstacles that cause children to drop out, get involved in risky behaviors, become depressed. Even the current situation now, you know, school has been remote or blended, and from one district to the next, and I'm talking about a matter of 2 or 3 city blocks. The children in this district, they went home with iPads, laptops. The children in this district had to order them. So we went on lockdown in March. In June, there were still children that didn't have electronics. And so there's 5 people in the household sharing one device. How is that child going to keep up? They're not. They're just not. And so our children suffer.
I agree with you, Esther. I'm just thinking of the pandemic that we're in right now. This is an obstacle now. This platform of our family is unable to communicate, unable to understand what it means when so much is given to them. Should I have my child return in person? Should I have my child return in remote? If I leave my child at home, will their peers be ahead of me if they're in person? These are some obstacles that our parents are encountering today, right now. And like you said, different districts are doing different things. The district 30 miles away, all their kids have iPads. They have a PTA that has lots of money, so they're able to hire more educators in their schools or homeschool children at home. You know, all these things are obstacles for our families, especially for our African American families. Our mamas got to go to work. They have to make a living. What am I going to do with my baby? My baby need to go to school. I don't want to send my baby to school because I'm scared for this pandemic out there. My baby going to get sick. My baby going to come home and give it to grandmama, you know, and the list goes on and on. And so we're in person right now and we're in remote as well. But one thing we found was that the information given to our parents, they couldn't understand it. It wasn't in their language. And if it was in their language, they still didn't understand it, because nobody took the time to call the families and really talk to them and get to know them. And I mean, just know how to communicate with them. Give them the real. This is what it's going to look like in person. And this is what it's going to continue to look like in remote. Our parents were not given that. And so often in so many situations, yes, they get a flyer on a piece of white paper that looked like all the papers that was sent home, right? You know, they're not understanding that. So when they get home from work, they got to feed their babies. Their kids is hungry. They got household duties and things like that to take care of. That is more important than what this piece of paper you sent home from school. So they miss a lot of information as well, because I just think there's the whole communication. There's a gap, right, on how we communicate to our parents, when and the hows that parents are communicated with.
Do you guys feel like they're being misinformed?
I think underinformed.
Yes.
For many reasons. For New York City, just in East Harlem and the Upper East Side, which is where I've spent most of my career, we have people that speak probably 30 different languages, you know? And so what do you use? Google Translate? Maybe you can reach out to the Department of Education as an after-school program and see if you could get some translation services. But a lot of times you depend on the child to speak to the parent if you don't have multilingual staff, you know? I also wanted to bring up a point that was very unique to where Maraf and I worked together. We were a housing development on the Upper East Side, but it was a New York City housing development, the projects. And then all around are high-rise buildings with doormen, right? So when it came time for the city to give funding, because of our zip code, we wouldn't get funding because we're in a zip code, the second highest per capita income. But it's a housing development with people living in poverty. And so it's like, it's just so awful. And I think that parents are being underinformed because you just don't have the capacity to inform everyone. You don't have the manpower to sit and make phone calls. Parents don't have the time, or they're home when you're working and you're home when they're available. And so you would really need to be doing a tremendous amount of outreach in the evening or nighttime or early in the morning. You know, it's a big dilemma. It's a big, big dilemma. And then lastly, we were on site with students this week.
Mhm.
And then a week later, everything is virtual. And then we went to hybrid. No time to train anybody. There was no time to, we're literally painting by number. And this involves people's lives.
This sounds like Seattle.
Mm-hmm. To say that, yes,
It sounds like the Pacific Northwest.
everywhere at this point.
Right.
Mhm. You both talked about a lot of the barriers that children and families face, and that is something that we probably all experience in every state. What are some things that you want to see changed in this field of work that you're in? And maybe what would you suggest organizations or schools or even people to do to start that change?
Well, for the Pacific Northwest, what change I like to see is our programs, our early learning department programs, hire more African American male teachers.
Yeah.
You know, we have a lot of females, not a lot of African Americans, but we lack African American male teachers. Our boys need to see someone that looks like them, someone that can relate to them, someone that understands them. You know, not there's so much that our African American young boys need. And I can't give it all to them. I could be mama, auntie, grandma. I got that, right? But I can't be papa, uncle, and the father. I can't do that role for them. And our children, our boys, our young boys are lacking that. Our data shows, the statistics show that our Black African American boys are failing. They're failing in reading. They're failing in math, right? And they need to see more leaders like themselves. That is what I would change. I was so glad when Maraf and I met each other in the program, and he inquired about it and he applied and he got the job. And he got the job because he was qualified to get the job, right? But they also knew and understood that we needed more men, more male role models within the program. So, my part, what I can do is continue to be an advocate for what I see we need to happen. So when I meet male teachers like himself, smart, intelligent young men, I'm a go getter. He knows I am. I'm gonna have some conversation with you. We've got to advocate for what we want. We got to advocate for what we know our boys need, or for children. Period. We've got to advocate for them.
Things I would want to see change. How much time do we have? I agree about having male representation in the field. I also would like to take away some of the restrictions in terms of what you can teach and how you can teach it. I think that what we teach should reflect the lives of our clients, right?
Yeah.
So if there's no ski lodge in Harlem, we should not be introducing those types of things. I would like to see funding increase to be able to put children on a bus or a plane and take them places so that they can see other than their community. They have those opportunities before they, hopefully go away to college and experience country living, or get out of an urban, a highly populated urban environment. I would like to see more funding where you can actually pay people more money, and line staff. A lot of times the line staff is making minimum wage because the budget will only allow for paying minimum wage. And in the after school arena, we tried to develop, or at least the way that I ran my programs, I tried to develop and design programming to complement what the children were learning in school, but make it real, make math real to them. make nutrition real to them. Go to the supermarket, buy food, come back, cook it, measure with a measuring spoon, a measuring cup, like really hands-on activities that they could do. Wow, there's so many things that I wish would.
There are so many things, right? The list could go on and on, for real,
If I
right?
could dream, if I could dream, we would be here for a few days talking about this. But I think that you need to be able to and to professionalize after school staff, which I know there's a movement to do that. So after school staff is not looked at as glorified babysitters, you know?
Yeah.
I think that is critical, and have enough money to do staff development with quality. You know, a lot of times there's money to pay somebody from the time after school starts to after school ends, but you need at least 2 to 3 hours a week just to be doing professional development, just to be debriefing the experience, because a lot of times the after school staff are college students. They're not teachers, although we may hire teachers to do specialist activities, but the line staff that deal with the children that receive them from school, that take in, I had a bad day, or I didn't eat, or, you know, they really function as the parent until the parent comes, but professionalizing their roles and having adequate training, I think that our children in our communities would achieve better. They would do better in school. They would feel that they could get into the high school, college, university of their choice. They wouldn't feel poor.
Yeah.
You know, they would not feel poor.
So how can we push for more ages, like more people in this field, especially like you mentioned, the after school program or in preschool? How can we push more people to get their degree in those fields, but at the same time tell them that explain it to them or share with them that this is a field where you make a difference in the child's life. It's not like a babysitting job. It's not a glorified babysitter. Like, how can we make that change happen? Like, in you guys' opinion?
Yeah, that was a tough one because when my grandson was attending after school program, I noticed the turnover was high. You know, I'm not really sure how you can, you know, because it's an after hour position, right? Um, but I just remember when he was in the program, it was a high turnover. I remember appreciating the brother. There was one African American brother that really clinged to my grandson and built a nice relationship. And I felt real comfortable that my grandson was there and had a spot to be, you know. But just like any other positions in the field working with children, we have to go out there and advocate for the positions and recruit. And when we see goodness in people that we know have good hearts and have children at first, their interest and their concern, and really want to make a difference in working with children, I think we have a responsibility to go and recruit those people, right? Recruit them when we see them, talk to them, and encourage them to come aboard. The problem is when they come aboard, we don't know what's going to happen when they get there. It's the pay. It's the people they're going to work with. We can bring them in, but can we keep them in? It's a dilemma that I see, but I think it's really important to just be that advocate, to make it appealing that this is a job that's, is going to be rewarding to you. And that's what I tell people when I encourage them to apply for the jobs within our program. It's very rewarding. Working with young people is rewarding. We learn so much from them as they learn from us, right? It's really, I don't know no other rewarding job than working with children. I may not get paid a whole lot of money, but at the end of the day, they have made me smile. They have made me laugh. They have brought me joy. They have took away my stress. If I had any that day, it's a very rewarding job. or opportunity, I should say, to work with young people. And I think we have to share that, and we have to show that and tell it to people, tell it to a world out there. This is a rewarding job, y'all. I'm honest, I don't get paid a lot of money, but I tell you, it's better than this or that, right? Without putting anybody's job or criticizing anybody's jobs, but I, it's better than being the president. Who? Right? I mean, I'm just keeping it real. A president can't do our job, right? It takes a special person to do the jobs that we do. So, in my opinion, that's what I think we have to continue to do. We have to talk about the good. We have to talk about the positive in our job. We can't just always talk about what ain't working, right? Because that's going to turn people away. And I ain't interested. I wouldn't be interested in a job like that. So we have to show the positive and that the positive outcomes that come with you being in this type of work.
Right. That was good.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I also think that I'm a tough interviewer because I feel like if I hire somebody to be a group leader, that they should be with me at least 3 years, And so I'm I ask questions. And they're like, well, is this for an after school position? And I really let them know that, yeah, it's for an after school position. I try to challenge um, their intellect in terms of developing things. So I'm always looking at, okay, you did this, what's next? You did this, what's next? And so to build that, oh, I got to stay here because I'm learning. So at the Isaac Center, we called it a program within a program. So you're coming in as a group leader, but when you leave, you're going to leave as if you could run an after school program. So you're going to know the Department of Health standards. You're going to know the agency's policy and procedures. You're going to understand what a mission statement is and be able to repeat the mission statement and analyze the mission statement. You're going to be able to state what an objective is. We're not going to give you activities to do with the kids. You're going to develop your activities, because if you do something that you like, you'll stay, So those are the ways. But again, I wasn't working in a Department of Education where you have to stick with this curriculum. I was at a settlement house and I built programming and I trained staff. And so they couldn't argue with me about what I was doing, because when it was time for registration, the line was wrapped around the building. And so my retention with children was high. My retention with staff was high. And I loved my staff. And I told them that I loved them. And I told them that I respected them. And for the staff that wanted to move up and learn, I gave them responsibilities. And I advocated for them to get extra hours because they're helping me with this and they're helping me with that. And so that was kind of like how I retained staff. I think that also at my age, I'm trying to understand social media and all of that, but getting in that game is critical. That will attract people to the field because people have an idea of what it is, but they don't know what it really is. But the more that you can bring visibility to the programming, I think that people will want to be a part of it, So instead of doing all your activities inside, go outside, hang stuff up, open house, display the children's work. People come in. We had some staff that were participants when they were younger, and they're like, I love this place so much, I want to work here. And so, and don't get me wrong, I had some duds, because you're going to have some people that, yeah. And then when they really see how much work it is, they're like, ooh, this is a lot, and I think with everything, it's hit or miss. But I think employees stick around based on what they feel in the work site. And if they feel that whoever is supervising or managing them respects them. And so that was a priority in terms of my relationship with my staff. And so I think we need to have quality programming, provide quality experiences, and show what we do. I think that will attract people. Will it make them stay? Don't know, because like Tony said, it's a lot of work and not a lot of money.
Right.
You know?
I like what you said, Esther, about building relationships with your employees, how important that is to give them that positive feedback, how well they're doing, and to genuinely let them know you care about them, as a person first. And then this here job description that we have to do, if that's real for you, right? I think that's real positive that we employees, teachers, students, they need to hear that. They need to know you're doing a good job. We appreciate you. We need you. Thank you for doing this, and the other. I've been in this field for 43 years. Whoop, I told y'all. And I had a student, a little girl, and she grew up to be a teacher in New Orleans. She continued to grow up, and she is a principal. And she was in Seattle, and she came by to say hello to me. And it brought tears to my eyes to say, what an impression. Somebody left. I was a piece of the pie. I wasn't a whole, but I was a piece of that positive impression that left her with. And she always said, I want to be a teacher like Miss Washington. So I feel real strong, real happy about what you're saying about building those positive relationships with the people that we work with. It's key. And when you build it, then it begins to grow. If you build these positive relationships, they're going to tell their friend. They're going to tell the community, hey, this is a good place. These people recognize you. This organization recognizes you. They appreciate your work because it's word of mouth too. I know the media is out there. I have to call Maroff all the time. How do I do this and how do I do that? Thank God he got my back, right? I appreciate it. So many younger people have my back and are helping me get through this remote learning and teaching and all this stuff I got to learn in front of me. But amen, it's working out. But I really think that's really crucial to appreciate and tell people that we appreciate you. We care about you as a person, first and foremost. And then I believe that our programs in our schools will continue to grow. Because it's not, like Maya Angelou says, it's not what we say, it's how the person made you feel at the end of the day, right?
Right.
That's my stand.
I felt that. I really felt that. I agree completely, 100% with everything that you just said. We always talk about how children need to feel a sense of belonging and feel valued in the classroom. But oftentimes we forget about teachers, right? Whatever school they're in, whatever organization program, they need to feel like they are valued, they are loved, they are respected. They have that sense of belonging there. And I feel like it's also important to have that vulnerability and be authentic with yourself. So even if you're a supervisor and you screw up, own it. Let them know that you're learning with them too. And when I was a supervisor before and like working with staff, like they would honestly freak out if I go into their classroom and they're like, why are you here? And I'm like, I literally just want to be with you and just like get to know you more and hang out with you. And it took a lot, right? And then building that trust with them and then just hearing them as a person and valuing them made them have more trust in me. And they stayed longer. The retention rates were high because of that. But when a person feels love, they feel like they can do their job good every day. They feel their best selves every day. So I felt everything that you both said. And that, like, the whole time my heart was just like beating fast. I'm like, yes, this is absolutely right. So with this, I do have a question. What advice would you give Black females who are trying to enter this field?
I would let them know that their presence is much needed and appreciated, like we mentioned earlier. I would tell them to fight for the things that they believe in, but to do it in a way that others would join them. I would tell them to be advocates for Black children and families and to advocate for themselves as well. I would also tell them the importance of remembering their history, remembering that Rosa Parks sat down so you could stand up and walk, right? Looking at former vice President Michelle Obama, First Lady, if you will, when she said, when they go low, we go high, right? And
Yeah.
thinking about all of your putting your history in place and making this stuff real to us, right?
Yeah.
And just knowing that people are there to support you, that we got you, to go ahead and get that degree so you could tell people you earned it. It's yours, right? It can't nobody take it away from you once you earn your degree. So I do say get out there, go and get your degree because you're going to learn more. You're going to know more, right? Find that peer, that mentor that can help mentor you. Make those connections with those people that really care about you and want to see you advance in this field. Find your mentor, find your colleagues that you can be with, right?
Yeah.
That can help support you along because you can't do it by yourself. And you don't have to because there are people, I've had mentors over the years. I still do. I have that go-to person I can call or I can sit down with and say, I got this situation, or this is how I'm feeling. This is what's going on within the program, within the school district. And let's support and encourage each other. So those are my suggestions that I would give to African American Black women that are coming in this field. Don't be afraid. Stand up. Fight for what you know is right. Be a strong advocate for your children and families. They need you and they're depending on you. They're not depending on that principal or that superintendent. They're depending on that person that's interacting with their children every day and with them. That's who they're depending on. And we got this. We can do it, but we can do it together.
Everything Tony said. And I would say have a plan, right? Have a plan. What do I want to do? Journal, talk about what's happening, self-care. I'm a person that believes in being quiet and speaking when necessary and using as little words as possible in those arenas where you have to get your input in. You can learn a lot from observing. You got 2 eyes, 2 ears, 1 mouth. And so use these because it's going to inform you about where you are and what is needed. In addition, I would say, remember that you're a servant. Remember, you're serving a community. You're serving your families, the children, the parents or guardians, whatever the situation is. Remember that you are a servant. When you work from that perspective, your work is child-centered or community-centered. It's not about you. It's never about me. It's always, I've done stuff that I really didn't like doing, but I knew that it was something that would bring in the community, and then you can start to reshape and mold the program and get the parents to understand, okay, I'm doing this because of this, so that we can get to this. But first, you have to be quiet and you have to serve so the community will trust you. Be honest and do your work with integrity. If people don't trust you, it's over for you. It is over for you. When people trust you, when they feel that you work with integrity, you have an army behind you. And so your organizations have to listen, because if you go, they go. So you have your army. You have people that will say, yes, this is what we want. This is the demand. Because if they're getting funding, it's to serve the community, not the organization. And lastly, I would say have a sense of humor. You have to be able to laugh at your mistakes and keep it moving. I would have said, make sure you have a mentor, make sure you educate yourself. All the things that Tony said would be things that I would say, so I won't repeat them. And stay trained up. Things are changing. más rápido, right? So make sure, go to those conferences, go to those trainings, take that extra course because things are changing. Nothing is like when I was in elementary school and high school in the 1970s. Nothing.
Y'all should have a TED Talk. Serious. Feel so empowered right now. I'm like, my palms are sweating. So I'm just like, yes to everything.
I mean, for me, I just want to say something like Esther mentioned that me and her work together and mentoring. When I first moved to Seattle, being an educator and just working in different field I never ever worked in before, like I used to call Esther a lot because I had a lot of questions. Something might come up, so I'm always calling Esther. But at the same time, Esther did mentor me a lot into the place I got into today. If it wasn't for Esther, honestly, I wouldn't be here because she mentored me every day, took me to different places, DHS, showed me like a lot of the ropes and what I want to do in my life. So yeah, she was a big mentor in my life, and I'm still just call her. I think we had a talk like last week. I was still calling and talk to her if I have any questions. So yeah, having a mentor really, really does make a difference, especially in this field.
And I'll tell you this, I chased Maraf to work in my program because I interviewed him. It was a very solid interview. And then I couldn't reach him. I kept calling, I couldn't reach him. And I was on my way up to his house. I was going to go ring on his doorbell to hire him. And he came walking in. I was like, oh my gosh, I was going to go to your house. Just like that, I ran up on, I know he probably was like, this woman is out of her mind. This is just a job. But I did, and it was one of the best decisions that I made. And the reason why I chose Maraf, like many of the other staff, was that they were so out of the box. Like I call them canned answers. I didn't get the, well, why do you want to work with the field? Well, I love kids and kids love me. And that's, you took that answer off the shelf. I don't want an off the shelf answer. I want to know who you are and what you bring to the table and why my kids are special to you, and how you're going to make them a special part of your life. And so, you know them when you know them when you are talking to them, that, okay, this one is going to stay, this one is going to stick, I have to have this person on my staff. And so, and like Maraf, I still have my dance mentor that I still communicate with. She's in her 70s, and I call, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, I'm teaching this class. And there are people that I've had in my life throughout this field that I still rely on and talk to. And then there are young people in this field that I talk to and rely on because of how fast things are changing. And, because I do advise prospective supervisors and directors, it's important to understand what's happening on the front line. Absolutely important. So, yeah, those are my tidbits for people, women, Black women, women of color, period. I happen to live in a city where there are people from all over the world and after school programs that focus on so many different things. And New York is very high key, low key segregated. So this part, there's all Latino people over here and all Asian people over here and Caribbean people over here. And, it's very regionalized, but where we work together, it was a sprinkling of a little bit of everybody. And so I think that it's important for you to understand how to work with everybody. And so that's why I say you do this and use these and these, get to know, Don't be the angry Black woman. Just don't be. You don't have to do all of this. I do it if I have to talk to my high school kids because they understand, and they're like, oh, Miss Esther, you're so crazy, to build relationships with kids, be a kid also, be a kid. Sit on the floor with the kids and read a book, become them, play.
Yeah, I might sit down there with them, but they all know they got to help Miss Washington
That's
back
right.
in. And we have a good time. We have a good time sitting down there with them, because you made that eye contact with them. You're just right there with them, and they're all over you. And I love it. I can't wait till we get back in person. We can safely come back. I can't wait. I miss that. Having those experiences with them. But I remember I used to love to get down low with them and read my stories with them, and come close, get comfortable. And I don't believe in sit crisscross applesauce. If I can't, so why would I expect them to do it? If you want it, however you can be comfortable, it's fine with me. As long as you're not touching, bothering your friend,
That's right.
it's okay. So I'm all about the children. I'm all about their interests. I'm all about what they are about. And I think that's what makes this feel beautiful. It makes it so wonderful. It's such an amazing journey to work in this field of early learning. It really and truly has been. Like I said, I've been here 43 years. I got a few more years to go, y'all, because I ain't got, the age and all that other stuff. But it has been a wonderful journey working with children of all colors, of all nationalities, all genders. It has truly been a wonderful journey, but it has been what I made it to be. It has been what I have learned along the years that are my best practices, is what I use in my classroom and with my children and with my family. So I encourage anyone that gets into this field, practice your best practice. If it ain't good, erase it, get rid of it, and start over. It's okay, right? It's okay. But I want to thank you, Esther, for bringing this young man, get being his mentor. And who would know he would end up in the Pacific Northwest, and we would be on this call together, having this wonderful dialogue with each other in this field of with working with children, and particularly African American families, children and families of color. And I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be able to share just a little bit of what I know and a little bit of my experience. And I'm always open to that. So when Barack asks me, oh, who tells him no, right? Yeah, okay, I'm in. Because I know he's about goodness. I know he's about children and family. I know he's real. And that's why I encouraged him to apply for this job. And he got the job because he earned and deserved the job. Right on. Right. Exactly. And so I just thank you all for this opportunity. And I hope that there was something that I've said that will encourage someone along the way in this field.
Thank you so much, both of you, for being here and like providing us all of this knowledge. And Maraf, you are well loved and well respected in this field. I'm glad that both of you have.
We're not going to leave you out, Natasha. Thank you for helping to organize it as well. Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
Absolutely. I'm really glad to have the space for you all to share. And, once we do open this podcast up to everybody, I'm pretty sure that you're going to motivate and inspire so many educators to join us. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure. It has been an absolute pleasure. It's wonderful to see young people that are getting ready to build their legacy. And, like Tony said, just even having the slightest bit of time with either one of you to talk to you or answer a question, give you training, ask why you're late today, whatever it was, it's just wonderful to see that you all have the energy to do it. And also just developing this podcast that hopefully will inspire young professionals to keep going and going and going and going. And there was one thing that I wanted to mention because I was talking about a plan. Know the business. Know the business. Know the business. Know your regs. Know how to do a budget. Know how to shop. Know your business. Because there's two sides of the profession, right? There's the people and there's the numbers. So you got to know your business.
Thank you.
Thank you.